Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on Gran Turismo 7, and I'm back with a new track guide for this week's current daily race C at Grand Valley in Group 4. So for my guide, I'm using the Ferrari. I prefer it to the Silvia. The Silvia is probably a faster car around here in terms of overall lap time, just about, but the Ferrari can compete. This car can definitely get within a tenth or two of that Silvia, and I'm going to try and show you the brake markers and such to help you improve your lap time, and also for the race it will be a benefit. I much prefer this Ferrari in the race over the Silvia. It's a much nicer car to drive, more enjoyable to drive, and I think you'll have more fun driving this race in the Ferrari than you would in the Silvia. It's not quite got the same straight line speed on the uphill sections as the Silvia. Silvia's definitely got more pull up the hill. But yeah, if you do enjoy these videos, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comment section if it managed to improve your pace during the race or during qualifying. Remember, in the race you are on the harder tyres, bear that in mind for this track guide. So going into turn 1, we are going to use the 300 board on the left. You're going to use that in the race as well, and probably brake just slightly on that in the race, but in this time trial you can actually brake slightly past it. You can see just going on the brakes just as we're past that 300 board. And now we're going to slow the car down, go through the gears, and we want to get this car in very narrow to the apex. You want to hold an inside line through this corner. So downshift to third gear, get that car into this apex nice and early, down to second gear, let it hold that apex, let the car coast for a bit, no throttle, no braking, and then as soon as you feel the grip, onto that throttle aggressively and use the full width of the track. You can get right up to the edge of the track there, and now powering your way down into this very, very tricky, fast flowing section here. This is really about holding the speed through this corner. So just as we're coming through, you want to get, again, you want to use the full width of the track on entry. So from the left hand side, get it into this right hand side, and what you want to do is just little lift off the throttle. You're not going to really go on the brakes here. This is just lifting off the throttle just to get a bit of weight transfer, then back onto the throttle up to 6th gear and keep that throttle planted. Now at this point I turned left a little bit too late. I should have started turning left fraction earlier, because you want to get this car hugging the left hand side. You can see I'm actually running out a little bit wide now, and that is going to compromise my braking. Now you do use the 400 board as a reference for your braking. You can brake ever so slightly past that though. So you can see as we get to the braking point, we're braking now, and we're coming from an angle that I would not like to have done. Probably lost at least a tenth, maybe a tenth and a half, maybe even more in this section here, because we're coming from a very narrow angle. I'd rather have come from a wider angle and then get better exit speed. But you can see, holding the narrow line, wait for that rotation to happen before getting back on the throttle. Once you feel that rotation, aggressive on the throttle, and you can really plant the throttle in these Group 4 cars. So now into this next corner, as we're approaching the apex, you can see just as the car's getting down low onto the corner, we're going to put a tiny bit of braking input in here and just trail brake all the way through the corner down to third gear, and try and run it slightly from like the outside of the middle of the track. You don't want to go all the way to the right hand side. You just want to try and give yourself a line through this corner so you can attack the apex there, and again through this part here, attack with the corner here. Now again, you can see a little bit of lift off the throttle before we get to the apex here. That just gives you a better line through the corner, and then back onto the throttle into the next braking zone. Now there isn't really a reference to this. I just do it by line of sight and make sure that you're braking early rather than late, because you want to get the right hand tyre over the sand on the right almost, just to try and give yourself that line into this next sand corner. Now you do have the Grand Valley board and the shadow on the ground there as a reference for your braking, which you can use. That's what I use as my reference into this corner. So just as you go past that shadow, onto the brakes, and this should give you the rotation into this next left hand corner. So again, hold it to close to the apex, stay in second gear, and then get on that throttle quite aggressively. Just be cautious, don't run wide. You can see him playing with that throttle a little bit, because we don't want to run wide onto the sand on the right hand side. And now into the next braking zone, which I use the 100 board on the right hand side there. You can see it there. And we're going to brake pretty much dead on that 100 board. You can slightly go past it, the medium tyres, if you really want to be aggressive, but on hard tyres, you're braking just before that 100 board. So now into this next zone, you try and keep it very narrow to this apex. Look how I hug the inside line. You want to try and get the middle of the car almost on that white line. Left-hand tyre now touching the white line, and then onto the throttle, and you want to try and rotate this into this right-hand corner. This is a tricky corner. With the mediums, you can be a lot more aggressive than with the hard tyres. With the hard tyres, you have to be a little bit more cautious with that throttle. You can see a tiny bit of braking input going in just to try and get that rotation on the car. Nothing drastic, just a little 10% dab of the brake, and then back onto that throttle, gradually putting the full throttle in, and use the full width of the track on the outside there. Now remember, with the hard tyres, you will need to be slightly more cautious on that corner with how early you get on the throttle. And now we're working our way into the next braking zone, again using the 100 board on the left hand side. That is our reference into this very tight right hand corner through the tunnel. So you can see onto the brakes, and now we're going to go down through the gears. And what you want to do is you want to try and get this car in very early to the apex. You can see taking a very narrow line into this corner because you don't want to run out wide, because the camber will just run you wide if you do that. So take quite a narrow line, keep it to the apex, and then just wait for that throttle inputs before you get to, you don't want to be too aggressive there because you'll understeer, so trying to keep it to the right hand side. And then as you come out the tunnel, you can see there's a shadow line there, which is almost a perfect reference for your braking. Just as you go past that, onto the brakes, and now you want to try and get this car through this very tricky chicane. Left hand tyre up onto the curb, just be cautious your right hand tyre doesn't go over the white line there. And again, onto this exit of the chicane, left hand tyre needs to stay within them white lines. So just as long as that left hand tyre stays within the white lines, you're good to go for track limits. Very easy to pick up a penalty on that chicane. You have to be ultra cautious. And now it's just completely flat out all the way to the finishing line. And this is the section of track where the Silvia is a little bit stronger. Obviously this uphill acceleration, and then obviously from here to the finish line, the Silvia does definitely gain on the Ferrari ever so slightly. So if you want to use a Silvia, by all means, brake references are going to be pretty much identical. However, I prefer using the Ferrari, it's more fun. Now we only did 2 laps, I think it was, for that lap. We didn't take very long doing it at all. I think it was just before the race. We had 2 laps to do. First lap was like a 55.6, and then that was a 54.2. So definitely more potential in the Ferrari. I think the Ferrari can get a 53.6, 53.5 if it's in the right hands, pushing 100%. But you can see from the chase camera again, using that full track width, and again you're going to see this corner here, how I compromise the lap a little bit on this corner. So keep your eye on my turning inputs as we're coming through here. We get this part pretty much sorted, but then I was just too delayed on that left-hand turn. You can see the understeer now, and then that compromises your braking. Just about get it back into the racing line though, so we probably lost about a 10th there, I reckon. 10th of a second gone, and now into this next left-hand corner. Again, this is a really tricky one. You've got to be careful you don't take too much speed in. You don't want to run too far wide onto the entry into that corner. You try and just pass the middle of the track, and then again using the full track, you can see onto the actual sand on the side of the track there to give yourself more of a line into the corner, and then aggressive on that throttle, using the full width on the exit, and again into this really tricky section. I do like this section though. When you hook this section up, it feels really good. So again, keeping it very tight, you can see almost the middle of the car over the white line, and then throttling it to get a bit of rotation, and again through here right up to the curb on the right, and then using the full width, almost touching the barrier on the left. And I think you might have to be careful sometimes on that full width for the track there. You used to be able to pick up a penalty. I don't know if it's still there. If you graze along and go over the white line, you can pick up a penalty, so just be cautious of that one. And now into the chicane, you can see the white line, right hand tyre, keep it on within the white line, and you should be good to go with the track limits. That corner there, 3rd gear before you come out the exit, really important to carry the momentum in the Ferrari. If you're in 2nd gear still, you're going to have to do that awkward upshift at the end of the chicane, and that's going to lose you so much time. You really need to be in 3rd gear, powering out of that chicane to gain you a good 2-3 tenths, because if you're not, you're going to lose so much all the way to the finishing line, because it's going to cost you all the way up to this point now, up to the line. So bear that in mind. Anyway, I hope this has helped you out. If it has, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, let me know in the comment section if it's helped you out, and I'll see you all again for more videos and live streams on the channel. Thanks again for watching.